Hey, Internet. I want to make a contribution to the empath community um, concerning the topic of what is an empath. As an empath, um, that man in across the street who is using a chainsaw right now, apparently to cut something. That sound of a chainsaw really affects us. So, number one, I apologize for that. But that is a perfect segue into what is an empath. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are saying, "Well, am I an empath? What exactly is an empath? I think I am. I'm not sure." And there's not a whole lot of information that gives clear distinctions about what an empath is, and that is mainly because empathic nature, empathic ability, is something that's very almost otherworldly. It's hard to pinpoint into like descriptions and words. So I figured I would just come from my personal experience, and maybe that can help add some kind of new dimension or insight and for others to into their own empathic nature. So much like that chainsaw sound, when I hear a sound like that, like a really loud, strong sound, I feel that sound. I feel the energy of that aggressive chainsaw cutting into wood. I feel that. And that's kind of, for me, what an empath is that I experience in my inner world, my inner feelings, my inner body. Um, I experience the world around me, sounds, people, places. I experience them in a way that feels deeply personal. Um, and I think, especially people, that's like the number one thing you read about when you're researching empaths. Is it's like feel that empaths feel the emotions of others, the feelings of others, and that is super true. But it also extends to the world at large, the non-human world, the trees. A certain place can hold a certain energy, maybe depending on what's happened there in the past. And as empaths, we feel the subtlest vibrations, you could say, from places, people, things, etc. And I feel like, for me, what makes an empath quote unquote different from normal people is that I feel like the average person in their, you could say, aura, and this could also just be used as a symbol, not necessarily to be taken literally, but I think there is some kind of energetic truth to it, is that a normal person, let's say their aura is the energy that surrounds them, and it's how they feel and communicate on subtler, more subtle levels with the world around them. And I feel like on a normal person, there's almost like a thin veneer around their aura, a kind of shell, you could say. You could use the image of like a crystal egg that surrounds every human being. And it's like kind of their barrier from the outside world, and it's a permeable, much like you could say like a cell. Things can come in, things can come in, and things can go out, but there is kind of like a barrier there that also has the ability to reflect things from coming in and to protect things from leaking out. And I feel like for empaths, we don't have that protective shell. We are just our aura, and there's nothing that kind of blocks, that contains it. It's just in, out, in, out. You could say, I get the image of like waves coming in and out on a beach. And so without that protective shield, we are just sponges. We absorb the feelings, and when we're around other people, the energies in their auras, you could say, it just kind of automatically comes in. It just is pulled into our space. And because we don't have that protective shield and things can just come and go at whim, when they come into our space, we feel them. That's the only way as human beings we can experience anything in the inner worlds, the inner bodies, our inner feelings, is it's felt subjectively. It's felt as if like this is mine. So when without this protective shell, we're absorbing the vibrations, the energies from people, places, events, situations around us. And even though it is not our energy, because we don't have that protective shield, it just kind of comes in and then we feel that. And so the only way we can feel that is as our own. So that's where, the curse aspect of being an empath is that it's really confusing, especially at first when you don't know what being an empath is, and you're just like feel like an emotional mess because you feel so many things and you can't pinpoint where they come from, because I can differentiate my feelings as opposed to feelings coming from the outside world, is because my feelings, I can, if you are watchful of your mind at all, you can see it's usually connected with a thought or an emotion, and you can decipher where it comes from. But as an empath, we have so many emotional stirrings within us that we just can't pinpoint, especially at first, because we're like, what is this? What's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? So that has to be recognized first and foremost. And I feel like just in recognizing that, it can revolutionize a empath's life, to say, wait a second, all these years I've been feeling all this crazy stuff and feeling like I'm insane. All that stuff wasn't even mine. Some of it was, but all of it wasn't mine. It was just me absorbing it in. So there's a lot of talk of like protecting and shields, psychic shields, protection to help an empath kind of control the influx of things and to remain centered in their own energy. And I think that is a useful conversation. But we have to be careful, speaking from personal experience, that we don't, number one, that we don't get into a space where we just shut down and say, I can't handle the influx of energy, so I'm just going to emotionally turn myself off and become like this emotionless creature. Because empaths are also filled with so much guilt, fear, shame, because when it's our own emotions as empaths, if we can feel other people's emotions as our own emotions are way more magnified, way more exaggerated than other people. So it's easy to get so overwhelmed with it all that we just shut our emotional selves down. We disconnect ourselves from that part of ourselves that feels. I like to think of it this way. For me, I've learned my greatest lessons in harnessing empathic ability is self-preservation, self-care, almost selfish living. And the word selfish is such a loaded word, has such negative connotations, but if you look at it outside of all of those connotations, then selfish is just focusing on self. And for an empath, that is essential. You have to set boundaries. You have to listen to your inner guidance, because as empaths, we have this compass internally that guides us, says, hey, avoid this, this is okay. We have to follow that because that guidance knows what's best for us. And so it's almost like an empath, we're torn because we feel so much compassion for the world around us that we feel this overwhelming need to have to jump in there. When in reality, if we jump into situations, things, whatever, that our internal guidance system is telling us might be too much for our system, we're setting ourselves up for failure. You have to really trust that voice. And I'll speak from personal experience. By nature, I'm a very introverted person. I'm a Pisces. I have a lot of Pisces placement in my Vedic astrological chart as well. and enough placements to allow me to recognize that it is truly part of my nature to be more of a person who lives in solitude. I love solitude. Solitude, being alone, is my lifeblood. It's what charges me, and I love solitude. Um, and so naturally, being that kind of person, I am not crazy about social situations where there's groups of people. It's just so much for my system to take in, and it has nothing to do with hating people, like some people say. It's just that I mean, I love people. I feel what they feel. I love them, but at the same time, to be surrounded by so many different energies and absorbing them all becomes easily overwhelming. Panic attacks, anxiety. So I'm learning these days to really trust myself, and say, this is my life. I want it to be beneficial, but I want it to be pleasant experience for me as well. Um, and the only way we can live our lives guided by um, peace and joy is to follow that, even if it goes completely against the stream of, like, you know, acceptable social rules. If you need to be a hermit, be a hermit. There's nothing wrong with that. If you look back throughout history, people who are introverts and hermits and recluses and solitude living people, there's some really great people, some really great thinkers, some really great philosophers, some really great understanders of life. They are adventurers in their own right. They are seekers in their own right, seeking the quiet places, the silent spaces. Um, so that's my lesson, is that recognizing that I don't have this protective shield that a lot of other people have, and that I do feel the effects of others in the world around me. um, I have to honor that. It is a gift. Even though some days we think it is not, it is a gift. And so I choose to honor that gift and to say, if I need to be quiet and alone for 2 weeks, then 2 weeks it is. And that is good, and that is purposeful, and that has benefit. I spend so much time being attracted to hobbies that are solitary hobbies. That's for a reason. I am attracted to those things for a reason, because that is a part of who I am. I love to research, to read, to write. Those are things that, and just innately, I am pulled to for a reason. Because as an empath, as an introvert, as one who needs solitude for survival, um, I have to honor those attributes, and I have to embrace them. I have to say, this is a joyous life that I live, um, because I could not live any other life. I mean, if you are an empath, you are an empath. If you fight that, you're gonna fight it, but you still will be an empath. So I want to see, and I hope for all empaths, that we learn to just embrace that part of ourselves, and we learn to revel in it, and we learn to know ourselves, and we learn to have acceptance and trust in that voice within that guides us, that may make us seem like crazy lunatics to an outside world. But life is, I love the old saying, it's such a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. You come into this world alone and you leave alone. And our time in between, it should be lived in our own unique expression. And every single human being that lives now, has ever lived, will ever live, has a unique expression on earth. And as empaths, we are a very special subcategory of people. We do have there is a reason for our hypersensitive natures. There's a reason for it. And once you learn to trust that that reason exists for a purpose, and to trust in the guidance that you get as a wonderful companion with this ability, then I think it makes life so much easier to unfold the way we need it to, we want it to, we desire it to. I desire a life of peace, of joy, of simplicity. And because I desire those things, I know that that is a part of my purpose here, if that makes sense. So, 15-minute long video, that's kind of insane. If you've watched this all the way through, God bless you. I get kind of wordy, especially on talking about being an empath, because it's a wonderful thing, and I have so much gratitude for it, even on the hard days. So yeah, I hope that was beneficial to somebody, even if just the tiniest bit. And that's all. So anyway, whoever it is, wherever you are, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and thanks for listening. Bye.